When you play the Game of Thrones,
Subscribe and like.
you die. There is no middle ground.
Welcome back to the Grease Goblins YouTube channel. Today's video, we're going to be talking about the Winds of Winter prologue and what possibly could be happening within it. A lot of people have a lot of different theories, believing what character they think is going to be the POV, what's going to happen during that POV, and we've gotten a couple hints from George himself. So let's not waste any time. Let's dive right in to the Winds of Winter prologue. I personally believe the prologue is going to be focused on this journey that Edmure and the Westerlings are taking to go into the West. Edmure has more or less gotten Riverrun to surrender, the Blackfish has escaped Riverrun, but the Freys, as of right now control Riverrun. So a party has been sent by Jaime with people like Edmure, Jane Westerling, the Spicers, everybody that is, more or less everybody in that family, and Edmure are being sent to the West as, well, hostages in Edmure's case, but in the Spicers' case, just going home. But it seems not to be that simple, because George R.R. Martin has told us that we will see Jane Westerling once again. And that has gotten a lot of speculation from fans, because how are we going to see them again if they're just going home and nothing bad happens on that trip from Riverrun? I personally believe that the prologue of the story would make sense for it to take place where we have this journey. Now, the problem you have to face is who is actually the POV. A lot of people have pointed to the idea maybe that it's going to be Jane Westerling herself. Maybe that's why George said we're going to see Jane Westerling again, because she is going to be the POV to kick off the Winds of Winter. I don't think so. I don't think Jane Westerling is going to be the POV, just because I don't think Jane is going to die in this opening section. So I think it needs to be somebody that is likely going to die if they were ambushed, and for it to make sense. Now, I think if you look at the prologues of some of the other characters, a common theme has been that some of them are characters that are betraying and or are kind of antagonistic type characters. So for instance, in book 3, we saw this through Chet, and Chet was going to kill Sam, he was going to betray the Night's Watch, all that kind of stuff, but then the others attack and the Fist of the Firstman happens, all that kind of stuff. Okay, so that's book 3. Book 5, we have Varamir, another character that's very antagonistic to characters like Jon, and he kind of points as an example of what Bran possibly could be in the future, or even Jon, but he's a kind of an antagonistic character. Now, book 4 is a bit different, just given the fact that you have Pate, who is somebody trying to basically buy his love, and he's trying to do all these things. He's not really an antagonistic force, but he dies because of the Faceless Men. Book 2, we see Crescent, and he ends up dying because he tries to poison Melisandre. And then in book 1, we see our 3 Night's Watchmen go north the wall, and only one of them survives. So, in my opinion, we have to think of what would make sense for what George is wanting to tell the story of the Winds of Winter with. And I don't think it's Jane Westerling. I think it's going to be a character like either Cybele Spicer or Rolf Spicer. But I believe it'll be one of those two. And why is it that I believe it's going to be one of those two? Because those two characters specifically betrayed Robb's cause and allegedly are in rumors of they were more or less tricking Robb to marry Jane, and they were preventing Jane from getting pregnant. They were actively harming Robb's campaign and also his legacy. And so I think that George would have one of those two characters be the POV for it, because as they maybe are dying, like they're on this journey and then they get attacked by, we'll talk about that section, but they get attacked by a number of forces, they might be rethinking their decision to betray Robb, and all of that's led to now their deaths. So I personally believe it'll be one of those two. I think it makes a lot of sense. It could give us a little bit more of an insight into what they were doing during the first, couple books, and how they betrayed Robb, even in more depth outside of it just being like Jaime questioning them. I think that makes a lot of sense. I know other people have said maybe it's Edmure or Jane. I just don't think so, because I don't think either of those characters are going to die. I don't think it makes sense for, say, if this is the Blackfish with some forces or Lady Stoneheart, I don't see why Lady Stoneheart would kill Jane specifically unless she was just a casualty of it. I mean, it could be something like that, where it's like a casualty of war that maybe it wasn't planned that Edmure was going to die or Jane was going to die, but it just happens, the heat of battle, whatever. I just don't see it happening because, for one, I think Edmure will be the Lord of Riverrun by the end of the series. If you kill off Edmure, and, we're expecting maybe Blackfish doesn't live to the end of the series, who is going to take the mantle of being Lord of Riverrun for the Tullys? Is it just not going to be Tullys at all? I personally think that Edmure will survive, and I think Jane will as well. So what do I actually think is going to happen during the prologue? I think the prologue is going to be a mix of chaos. As we've gone through the books, we've gotten more and more into this great pack of wolves that's being led by Nymeria. That's been a very active part of the story, and at times they've played a role, like for instance when Arya is in Nymeria's skin and is able to bring Lady Stoneheart out of the river, which then allows for her to be resurrected. We've seen them play a role, but it's almost like never a true role where we see them on screen doing this huge, big carnage or attack. I think this is why we've been building up to it. I think we will see Nymeria and her wolf pack attack this party, as well as another thing happening as well. Whether you believe it's going to be the Blackfish and he's gathered some men, or whether you think it's going to be the Brotherhood without banners who gather some men, I believe we're going to see one of those two factions attack this party as they're going west. It makes sense to get Edmure out of captivity. He has just released the Blackfish. We know he has all the right loyalties. This would be a top priority for somebody like Lady Stoneheart, getting her brother back out of captivity and all of that. It would be a high priority for the Blackfish as well as this party is not going to be aware of their attack. Now, why I think this is kind of up for debate is because we know Jaime had thought of this already. Jaime realized this would be a very bad thing if Jane Westerling specifically fell into the hands of someone else, because she could be a dangerous person that people could use as being the Queen of the North, the person that married Robb and possibly could maybe have a child at some point, but who knows? A lot of people have speculated on the idea that Jane is pregnant just based on the differences that she has in both her description by Catelyn and then by Jaime. George has straight up come out and said that that was just a mistake, and that has actually been updated since, so that's not necessarily a thing at the moment, unless he was lying to us, which I don't think he is, but some people still think that that is the case. So I don't think that's going to happen in terms of Jane being used like that, but I do think she'll have a role alongside of like Edmure. I think their stories will continue in A Song of Ice and Fire. I don't think they're just going to be sidelined until the very end of the story and then come back up. So I think what we're going to see is a lot of carnage. I think this Lannister force will be, on one side of it, attacked by the Direwolf pack, and then we're also going to see them being attacked by the Brotherhood without banners, maybe the Blackfish in there as well. And you might be wondering, why do I think that the Brotherhood would attack them? Well, the Brotherhood is going to know that this army is going out to the west. We already have foreshadowing to the Brotherhood already infiltrating the River Run party and a faction with Tom of Seven Streams. And so I personally think that this is going to be a huge moment to kick off the story. And it would connect so well because we know the Brotherhood without banners should have a big role to play in the upcoming story, given the Revenge Red Wedding, if we see that. Also, you got to think about the character of Lady Stoneheart and how that might tie to Arya's storyline. I also think it would have some really good symbolism, given the fact that I think Arya and the Brotherhood, or Lady Stoneheart's faction, will collide in the next book, and we will see probably the resolution to the Lady Stoneheart plot with maybe her death by Arya. So I personally think that's where the story is going. I think that Edmure and Jane will more or less be rescued while a lot of the people around them are killed, all that kind of stuff. And I think we will see either Cybele Spicer, Rolf, one of them is going to be killed, if not both, and I think we're going to see that through the prologue. So that is my ideas for the Winds of Winter prologue. What do you guys think? Do you think it's going to be something different? But let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you guys all in the next one. Bye, guys.